Okay, talking about PTSD, yeah, that Rabbi Russell just finished off. I think everyone's still a little traumatized. I definitely am, so if I lose my train of thought, I'll see if people are following. Interestingly, Rabbi Russell just spoke about the idea of attachment, right, in relationships, which is basically about really attaching closely enough to avoid difficulty later, being resilient. So the title of this class was that every healthy relationship has this. Okay, so basically, based on what he just said, I assume that every relationship has a healthy idea of attachment. So let me just expand on that one minute before I go further onto something else that every healthy relationship probably does have. The idea that he was talking about of attachment was more or less explaining it about children, how parents could connect with children and make children feel attached and safe and secure, seen, soothed, right? And something that's what children will always be looking up to parents, always be looking up to caregivers to give them that feeling. Obviously, once that's in place, only then can one go to the next step. But let's try to talk more about relationships between adults, right? Mainly in marriage, but not only in marriage. The truth is that every relationship is really the same in some aspects. I was just doing a series workshop about business relationships, employers and employees, and managers and partners, and all kinds of different, or the co-workers. And so many of the same ideas that will help any relationship thrive is the same as it would be in Shalom Bayis. And very often the same people that would struggle in one relationship will end up struggling in another relationship for the same reason. I'm going to try to cover this a little shorter than usual. So the first half of the equation, right, which we said is attaching, let's just put it into context when it comes to marriage, when it comes to any healthy relationship. There's always something that you want to be giving the other person in order to have a healthy relationship with someone. And let me qualify and be clear about the fact, and I'm saying this because I spoke earlier today about personalities and what's natural for one person may not be natural for someone else. And you see this all the time in relationships. I don't like giving a one-size-fits-all description of something that's going to work when in reality it may not be so. There may be people that you yourself will get along with, and then with other people not. So how does that work if it says something about you? The answer is that different people have different languages, as they call it, different ways of relating, and that's why there will automatically be things that will be easier in one relationship than the other. And that's normal and expected. But without going into the personalities and how it affects a relationship, which is not something I want to talk about now, let's talk about one of the main ingredients of a healthy relationship, which will affect different people differently, but it will always boil down to the same idea. The first part about giving someone, well, obviously, if you want to have a healthy relationship with someone, you want to give them a good feeling. You want to make sure that you're avoiding any negative feeling, and we just heard 2 hours about that, right? I don't have to explain what that means. You want to avoid having somebody feel hurt, or slighted, or insulted, humiliated, offended. There's so many things you want to avoid in order to have a healthy connection. And aside from avoiding anything that could damage a relationship, you want to also be giving the other person a feeling of acceptance, love, understanding, and everything else that's there in order to show someone that you're there for them. Obviously, if these things are not in place, if the relating to the other person in a healthy way is not there yet, then of course a relationship could fail. So if somebody's not open or aware of how much he has to be careful not to hurt someone, or how much he has to be invested in actually giving the other person what they need, fulfilling their needs, making them feel good on an emotional and psychological level, then of course there's no relationship to even begin with. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I'm just mentioning it because that's the first half of any relationship. You can't relate to someone without being very invested in not hurting them and giving them whatever they need. But there's another part of it, and you'll see that very often people that are very giving and very caring and even over-caring sometimes, right? People that will do anything for anyone will also be struggling in a relationship. It's not easy to get along sometimes. And especially when we're talking about marriage. Marriage is a relationship where you're so close and so intertwined and living so, I don't like using the phrase on top of each other, but you're living long-term together very, very closely, and it's very easy to not get along. Sometimes it seems like it would be better if once in a while we go away from each other, and automatically it just becomes easier later. Like it's like most relationships. There are people that will be successful in almost every relationship in their life, And when it comes to the marriage, they will have a problem. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons is because the other person you're relating to, you always have the time off. You're relating to someone at work, and then you go home, and then you have space for yourself. Or you're relating to a parent or whoever it is that you're not always with, and automatically you have your own space, and it's easier to go and relate to someone else. But you're being close the whole time. That's when it gets difficult. So of course, if somebody's on a business trip, and I've seen this, I've seen couples that don't get along, unfortunately, and in the middle of a struggle, in the middle of things being difficult, and the husband is traveling away to China for a week, and of course the initial goodbye is, yeah, go, I don't need you, and that's fine. And all of a sudden, after 2 or 3 days of being alone, they're texting and talking, and all of a sudden they're having a normal relationship until he comes back. So there's something about being far away that just makes it so much easier to relate to someone, because when you're too close, it could be a problem. Say the joke about the guy that came to a therapist, and he said that his marriage is failing, he doesn't know what to do about it. So I think you're under a lot of stress. I think if you run every day 5 miles, then automatically the stress level will be down, you'll get the fresh air, everything. I think you'll be fine. Call me in a week. Calls him back after a week and he says, no, how's your marriage doing? He said, it's great. Really? He said, yeah, I'm 35 miles away from home already. He was running 5 miles a day and everything was fine. So it's important to remember that one of the reasons that one relationship will fail and another one will succeed is not necessarily because you're doing things differently. Like I said, I already mentioned 2 reasons that could happen. One is because you're dealing with a different kind of person. So while you are relating well to one kind of person, one type of person, and you're getting it right, and maybe that person is actually an easier person to get along with, right? Maybe that person grew up in a healthier home, maybe whatever else. Another thing is that when you're living too close with someone, automatically there are things that will bother you and get in the way that may have not happened in another relationship that you're in. So one of the things that and this is really the topic that I wanted to cover, and like I said, I won't talk about it too long. I just want to give it the concept and make sure it's understood. What happens is, when people get married, the way we're taught, and the way we assume, and the way we think the ideal situation is, right? Because we're now getting married, it was first me and you, and now all of a sudden we're becoming one. What happens is, sometimes you stand under the chuppah, and some of you look like you did it more than a week ago, or a year ago at least, and for some reason it looks like you're shedding your individuality under the chuppah. You're committing to someone, you're committing to a relationship, and from now on, it's the 2 of us. Well, it's not the 2 of us, it's us. And it's us. Basically, it sounds like it's not anymore me and you, right? Which is 2 people that are roommates, but it's we, and that's beautiful. It's beautiful up until it becomes a problem where someone starts looking for themselves again and they can't find themselves anymore. Just recently, I was dating with a man, I think it was a week ago, and he was having a lot of difficulty in his marriage until he realized that, maybe he's not finding himself anymore, and maybe he's not doing anything that he's interested in anymore because he's so dedicated or taken over or controlled by someone else, that he realized he has to start doing things, that are in his best interest, or he's not going to function anymore. What happened was that after a few weeks of trying to take care of himself and put himself, let's not call it first, but just trying to take care of his own interests, his wife said, this is not marriage. So what do you mean it's not marriage? Well, we used to be one, and now you're doing things on your own. Now he came to ask me if his wife's statement is correct. What happens is, very often we associate the idea of being one as we're living so close together that we really share everything together, which would be beautiful if it was possible. What his wife was thinking, when she said we were one, means that you did everything the way I wanted. So we were one. We only had one way of seeing things and wanting things done, and it always went in one direction. And now, all of a sudden, she's realizing that it's not anymore one, so if we're not one anymore, it's a problem. But that oneness was never a healthy oneness. That oneness that she was perceiving as the ideal situation, we always went together and did together and only bought something that we both were aware of, it was only because it was all going her way. And to give it a little more understanding, it would be just as big a mistake, let me just qualify, it would be just as big a mistake to think that 2 people are getting married, okay, it's beautiful, we're going to build a home together, we may even share children, but at the end of the day we're still 2 separate people, and we just have certain places where we relate to each other, right? That would basically be 2 roommates that are in a long-term relationship because for whatever reason it's too hard to pay rent in 2 different places and other things, and that would be just as big a mistake. There is something about people getting together, people getting married, that really does become one. And that's why it's so important to understand how much of it really is becoming one and how much of it is not becoming one. The general idea, and the way I like to break it down. What was that? Yeah. That was it? Okay. Still hear me, yeah? Alright. So the picture looks good because there's a mic and you hear me, so it's not a problem, right? Okay. So I could get it out, if not, just chuck it, yeah. Alright, let's just leave it. The idea of healthy boundaries, the idea that two people are living together and really interacting well and sharing a lot in common and really being connected, but at the same time knowing where to differentiate that and where to understand that as one as we are, we still remain two individuals. Okay? So the way I describe it and try to put it into proper context, in every relationship, there needs to remain, in every relationship, it's not only marriage, it's even marriage, in every relationship, in its own way and in its own place and examples, there needs to remain what is mine, what is yours, and what is ours. Remember that. In any relationship, in order for a relationship to succeed, there will always need to be that which belongs to me, and it's mine, that which belongs to you, and it's yours, and that which belongs to us. You know, they say the famous joke about the couple that get married and they decide in advance, we'll never fight, right? It's either going to be something that belongs to me to decide or you to decide, and it's great, right? But what happened was, he never found the thing that belonged to him, and his whole life he was dealing with things that belonged to her, and they were fighting over that alone. It's important to remember, what is it that really does belong to someone individually, regardless of who he's relating to? And like I said, it could be with an employer, it could be with a spouse. What is it that remains mine, even if I'm married, and even if I'm happily married, and even if I'm trying to please my wife, and be the best possible husband I could be, what is it that remains mine and should remain mine? And what is it that I should remember will remain hers, even if she's trying to be a Ishik Shaira, Oyser Tzayim Bala, and even if she was taught to do everything the way the husband wanted, what really does belong to her? And at which point in our relationship will we share something that really will belong to both of us? And neither of us should try to snatch that and control that which really does belong to two different people. And I could say that dealing with people, couples, and marriages, and all kinds of relationships that got to some kind of breaking point, or some kind of difficulty, I should say, you're almost always able to pinpoint right away, almost always be able to pinpoint where these boundaries were violated. Almost always you'll hear about a certain part of a story, or part of an experience, where somebody was violating the other person's boundaries, and that's where it got sticky. Because it's not possible. This can't go, it's not possible for a relationship to thrive if people are not having that amount of respect for each other. So even though the understanding given for why a certain relationship failed was due to some kind of disagreement or due to some kind of hurt feelings, etc., at the end of the day you'll start noticing that it came originally from somewhere where somebody violated the other person's boundary. Now, let me just rephrase something, only because people walked in, and I want to be clear about this. The amount of how much somebody has to be careful about what's going to hurt someone else, and the amount of how much you have to give someone else in order to relate to them well, is not what we're discussing now. That's enormous. If somebody is gonna not take care of how much he's supposed to be giving the other person and relate to them in a healthy way, then that's not a relationship in the first place. I'm talking about if somebody is already aware of how much he's supposed to be giving, he's invested, he's trying, he's giving, and he's trying to avoid a difficulty, a miscommunication. It's still so important to not overdo that and overdo the emphasis on how much could I give you and how much could I please you, because if you overdo it, you'll be overstepping boundaries that are necessary for a healthy relationship. And another thing, when we talk about not violating boundaries, we talk about having a healthy balance, which is what boundaries are all about, a healthy balance. It is also, but it's not only to protect myself. Healthy boundaries in a relationship is not only because I'm trying to protect myself and make sure that what's mine belongs to me and nobody takes it away from me. It's not only that. I'm trying to protect you as well. I'm trying to protect our relationship. So aside from what's mine and yours, there's an ours, and the ours is our relationship. It belongs to both of us.
What's the tense of belongs? What are you referring to when you say belongs to me, belongs to her, belongs to us?
A loose definition to belongs would be what a person is supposed to be in control of, which I'll explain. I'm trying to protect our relationship. I want that what belongs to both of us, which is our relationship, should never suffer. I want that we relate to each other in a happy and healthy way. And like I said before, it could be easier for me than for you. It could be easier for you than for me. It could be you have better relationship skills than I do. It could be that you're getting it all right and I'm getting it all wrong. It could be, but at the end of the day, if we want to get along, it's only going to be if both of us are consciously aware, as much as possible, of what's healthy. What's healthy in this relationship? For whom should which area or which topic or which idea belong to? Let me try to explain it a little bit. Being that no two people ever became one, right? If anything, one person became two at some point in history, right? Udem Rishon, Eibishter made Die Parzifen, steht, he was created with Chava together. So I want some explanation about why he had to be split. Wouldn't that be the best? Imagine if husband and wife were attached like that, Siamese, then what could be better, right? You can never get into a fight because there's nowhere to run. But what happened was they were facing two different directions. So even though they were connected, in order for two people to be able to see the same thing and get along and want to go in the same direction, they had to be split and remain two. What that means is that no two people ever really always wanted the same thing. Ever. You could be married to the person that's so much like you, and has so much of the same background, and so much of the same chinuch, and so much everything, same values, even the same personality. At the end of the day, no two people are ever really alike. They say that in business, if two partners never disagree, then one of them is unnecessary. It's not because you need a fight in order to be successful in business. It's because if two people were literally the same, then why do we need both of them? So if two people are getting along and two people are married to each other, there are still going to be some differences at some point. And very, very often, I'm making believe it's like at some point, some differences, very often there will be many differences in many different areas. So in order for these two people to get along, it's important to remember that it's okay for us to each have our own individuality. It's expected for us to want different things. And being that we want different things, now how do we decide who gets what and who decides on what belongs to who? So I'm going to explain soon that this is not about being careful not to please someone else if this belongs to you. You're allowed to please whoever you want. We're talking about control over an issue, control over a decision, control over something that's important. Okay? So let's start with mine. Not because it's me, but let's start with mine. Right? What belongs to me in this room? We're talking now. We're in a relationship. We're not married. Right? Sooner or later, I'm going to let everyone go if they don't go on their own. But we're in a relationship. I'm speaking and you're listening. That's a relationship for the time being. What's mine about this relationship? What's mine is something that pertains to me. Something that really does pertain to me. Example, if somebody here says, Rabbi Russell just spoke without a hat, it looks like you're on your way out, you mind taking it off? There's nothing wrong with that. And it's fine for someone to express that, as I'll explain. But if I got caught off guard and said, oh, you know what, I want you to be able to concentrate, so I'll quickly take off my hat, then the next guy might say, you mind turning a little more to the women? And I'm going to say, okay, is this enough? And the next guy will say, but back off a little and fix the mic before you go on. And before you know it, I won't have anything that belongs to me anymore. Chances are I won't come back to speak again. Everyone needs their own individuality in order to continue. You can't go on if things that really do pertain to you are going to be controlled by someone else. It's not possible. Many people tried this. Yeah. Everybody has to be able to hold on to certain things in their life in order to be a person. Some people will bust after having that taken away from them, after a week. Okay, usually Sheva Brachas, you don't hear about usually. And some people, it will take a year, and some people will take 7 years, 10 years. I've seen the different kind of people react to this in different ways. But almost everyone, at some point, will not be able to tolerate being controlled. And there's no reason someone should be controlled. Now, again, the fact that I'm saying that these few things that have to do with what I'm doing, and how I'm standing, and where I'm talking, and what I'm saying, have to do with me, it doesn't really mean that it doesn't affect you. I want to be clear about that, because sometimes somebody will say, what do you mean? It's not your thing, you're the speaker, but I'm the audience, I'm trying to understand you, and it's very difficult. It's true, but it still pertains to me. It still pertains to me. So often, in any relationship, people will try, subconsciously, nobody has any bad intentions, and sometimes with a very good intention, trying to actually help the relationship. Well, you can't do that, even though it's yours. You can't wear that. You can't wear that suit, for example, because I don't like it, and you're making me feel uncomfortable. So it's not about you, it's about me, right? That kind of manipulation is incorrect, and very often people say, okay, I don't want to disturb you, I want to be nice to you, but by doing that, I will be putting myself in a spot. I will make myself uncomfortable. Now, I do want to mention that we're talking about healthy relationships. Actually, the title of the speech was Every Healthy Relationship Has This. Very often this is what will make a relationship healthy, and very often this is what will be needed in a healthy relationship. There are extreme situations, as we know, where somebody's dealing with something out of the box that has to be dealt with professionally, and where this may be a little less relevant. But I'm talking about in normal circumstances. It's important for somebody to know what belongs to them. It usually has to do with what a person's wearing, what a person's doing, what he's occupied in, his own actions, and everything has to do with him that's not directly affecting someone else. Then there's yours. Okay, yours is very similar to mine. There's the audience, right? Let's go back to our example over here. If I would start telling people, everyone should please put their hands down because it's hard for me to concentrate and speak when one guy's sitting like this and one guy's sitting like that, we should make up how we're going to sit, and everybody should please sit this way and that. It's wrong. It's wrong. I could do it, and maybe some people would listen because they want to be here when I'm speaking. It's still wrong. Slowly it's going to cause a resentment. It's going to cause some kind of bad feeling. It's going to mix with people's emotions, not realizing what's happening. I'm losing my individuality. I can't sit like I want. How can I concentrate if I'm not sitting the way I want? Etc. These are all silly examples, but they're just to bring out the idea. Then there's hours in a relationship, right? If I decide for whatever reason that because I just had 2 plates of cholent and I'm very hot and we should turn on the air conditioner all the way to the highest, and I'm going to hope that people are okay with it, right? Because that's what I need now, but I'm speaking. But the temperature in the room belongs to both of us. The temperature in the room belongs to both of us. It would be incorrect, it would be inappropriate, impolite, even if people would let it happen. As a matter of fact, if somebody lets it happen, it's the same problem as what I'm doing. I shouldn't be controlling something that pertains to all of us, and nobody should be allowing it to happen. And if you allow it to happen, then it's no chiddush. If later in my speech I say, you know what, it's hard for me to concentrate, I think we should turn off the lights, it will be easier for me to get my thoughts out. And all of a sudden whoever's writing notes will have a problem. It's wrong. But what made me do that? What made me decide that it's okay for me to turn off the lights as I speak here without asking anyone if it's okay? It's because when I turned on the air conditioner, nobody left. Nobody said anything. So often what happens in a relationship is, when some of these boundaries are violated, not only are you doing something that may hurt you, not only are you doing something that may hurt someone else, you're actually promoting something negative that could start slowly gaining roots and continue in a very unhealthy direction. And it usually doesn't stop at one point. What happens is, when somebody tells you, you mind standing this way? Yeah, and that, and this, and it's slowly. Sometimes it takes years, months, or years, or more, and it slowly starts developing to something very unhealthy. And this is what unhealthy relationships are very often about. Very often, even in a relationship where 2 people really do want to make each other feel comfortable, and they're trying, they're giving, they're complimenting emotionally, even financially, they're helping each other, but somewhere along the line somebody's being controlled. And that's something that's going to cause a lot of difficulty in the relationship. Just the other day I got a message on my voicemail from somebody who heard a class on business relationships, and he told me that he didn't realize why he was so resentful going to work every day. He liked his job, he liked his boss, he felt productive, he didn't know what it was. And after hearing a little about this, he realized that when he would stand there and he was supposed to take measurements, and his boss told him, do you mind holding my coffee? And he would go out and do some errand, and he was left standing there for a half hour with a coffee. He wasn't hired to do that. He was being controlled. That wasn't part of what his relationship was about. There are things that slowly, as somebody feels that their boundary is being violated, they get more and more resentful, and it damages the relationship. He's not helping anyone. Sometimes you think that by tolerating a certain amount of abuse, I don't want to use the word abuse, but by tolerating something wrong, that somebody's trying to control something that belongs to you, you're being mevatel, they call it. It's nice, it's good midas. Now, of course, the point is not to fight over it and get hostile and angry and show the other person that I'm not going to let this happen and start screaming. Of course not. But in a healthy relationship, we understand what belongs to me, what belongs to you, and what belongs to us. In a marriage, for example, right, the husband's way of where he davens, for example. You'll see this often. A wife will tell her, I don't like when you daven in this shul. And she'll have a few reasons why it pertains to her. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But most often, if you don't like something I do, but I like what I do, then it's very important that we both acknowledge that maybe I should be doing what I want. I'm not here to hurt you. And if I'm doing it in a way that is hurting you, then we could discuss that, obviously. But maybe what belongs to me should belong to me. If I like a suit or something that I'm wearing and you don't like it, is that a reason for me to take it off and wear what you want? Maybe it's a reason for me to tell you, you know what? It doesn't have to be this one. I have 3 that I like. Tell me which one you like best. I'm accommodating. But it has to belong to me. And that will make me remain a happy and healthy individual and let me relate to you in a happy and healthy way. As opposed to if I'm being controlled and I get resentful, and all of a sudden I'm not seeing eye to eye with you, and I don't like being around you, then how healthy could our relationship really be? And same thing is the other way around. whatever the wife is doing, right? She has her things that belong to her. Maybe it's her kitchen. Maybe it's the way she dresses. Maybe it's something about how she bathes the kids. But I don't like it. I know, but maybe this does belong to her. Now, like I said before, we could always try to come up with reasoning why this really also belongs to me. And I'm not talking about anything that's a halacha or a shkofa issue, which could be dealt with a third party, a ruv, or somebody who's competent. But just a healthy part of knowing what belongs to who. It's healthy. But how could you like a different flavor of ice cream than me? Right? Everyone knows that's ridiculous. I'm me and you're you. So if you say that you're insulted by the fact that I'm wearing something that you don't like, that's wrong. There's nothing to be insulted about. And there's certainly nothing for you to try to make me feel guilty for doing something I like. Right? You don't feel guilty when you do something that you like, in most cases. In most cases, someone who's trying to control the other is not allowing the other person to control them. It's very often a one-way street, and it gets lopsided. And then there's our. Our, right, in a marriage, our is very simple. It's our home, right? We live in a house together. It's our children. It's our approach to how we're running our home, what kind of home. And if that's something that one of two people are controlling, that again is a violation of boundaries. This is a boundary that belongs to both of us. Neither of us, right, we're not playing what they call it, snatch a salami. Neither of us are looking to grab the opportunity and take control over something that belongs to two people. And if one is doing something without considering what the other person would want, that is very unhealthy. It's going to cause resentment, and it's incorrect. Now again, obviously, there are things that Shulchan Aruch talks about, what belongs to whose decision, where a couple should live, and things like that. I'm not talking about it from a halacha aspect. You may be allowed to control certain things if you want. You may be allowed to give your opinion and enforce it regardless of how someone else wants. But if you're looking to build a healthy and happy relationship, there has to be some mutual understanding of what is it that belongs to me and what is it that belongs to you. Part of what belongs to me is not only what I'm going to do, and not only the way I want to conduct my own way of my own life. Part of it is things that I can't tolerate. Right? If you're doing something that's making me tolerate something, then I should be able to speak up and say, I can't tolerate that. Hey, but doesn't that contradict something we just said? Again, if you're doing something, right, and I don't like it, and I have to tolerate it, so who's controlling who now? If I let you do what you want, then basically I'm being controlled because I'm being hurt. But if I control it because I'm being hurt, then I'm controlling you again. So it's very important to understand and distinguish between what's really mine and yours. The idea of not controlling someone else, we mentioned, again, it could be elaborated on, but I don't want to talk at length about this. There's the simple idea about people making their own decisions. Then there's the idea that so often what someone's doing and is affecting someone else doesn't necessarily have to affect someone else. The fact that you want to go to a simcha and that's going to leave me babysitting, who said? Maybe there's another way to do it. Maybe, and so often when we get black and white, which is something that was also very unhealthy in a relationship, when it looks like there's only two ways to do it. It's my way or your way. Right? That's not correct. A husband shouldn't be telling a wife, I don't let you go to the simcha that you want to go to, because that's yours. But the wife shouldn't be telling the husband, you must now babysit, because I want to go, because that's mine. Maybe I don't must. If we could really understand this, and relate to each other in a healthy way and say, you know what, you're going to the simcha is yours. My going to my shir is mine. What could we do to make sure that both of us are in control of what we want to do? How could we work this out and come up with maybe a third solution that's going to make both of us not have to be controlled or tolerate something that we don't want? And when relationships are healthy, and this is understood, and a couple, and here there are couples that are both willing to hear this idea, are willing to understand what's mine, what's yours, how can we both let each other be in control of each other, that's very healthy. Let me take it one step further. When it comes to expressing myself, right? If I want to express how I feel about something, right? Let's say, for example, that I wanted to give before. I want to turn on the air conditioning real high. It should be very cold now in the room, right? For me to go do it would be incorrect because it involves everyone. I would have to look around and make sure everyone's okay with it, at least most of us, and respect what everyone wants because it belongs to both of us. But if I say, you know what? I can't go turn on the air conditioner, so I'm going to have to start sweating now. Why is that? Why can't I express myself? Expressing myself in a healthy way, not in a way that's going to hurt anyone, obviously, but expressing myself in a healthy way, saying what I want, what I would appreciate, what would mean so much to me, everything about me, not about you, right? It's not about, why can't you guys be okay with the air? No, expressing myself and saying, I'd like for the air conditioning to go on, so I'm very hot now, is it okay with everyone? That's fine. And if I can't do that, I'll be in control. So often in relationships we don't realize that so much of the control and so much of the boundary violation that I was just talking about is not so much in who's actually forcing who to do what. It's not that we were thinking of going on a Shabbaton or not, and we fought about it, and one of us won, and the other one was controlled. It's not always about decisions and actions and things that are practical and technical. Sometimes it's just about a way of thinking. If I have my opinion, and I have something I want done, or I have something I believe in, I can express it at home. I have to wait till I go to shul between my friends, and there I can say what I want, but at home, I don't know, it's not safe to say something, and there I'm being controlled again. I'm in an environment, I'm in a relationship where I'm controlled. I don't have the rights to express myself. It's not a matter of freedom of speech or not. It's simply something that's going to suffocate someone when he feels that he's not in a relationship where he's free to feel and think and express himself and say when something's bothering him. And even if there's something that's bothering him, it's about the other person. If for whatever reason I have an issue speaking now, when people are writing notes, I shouldn't say, could everyone please stop writing notes, I can't handle it, that would be wrong. But if I wouldn't be able to say, if it's possible, it disturbs me when you write notes, maybe just a word here and there, but if it's possible, I'm not going to be upset if anyone does, but I just want to say what will be easier for me and help me retain my concentration, that's fine. And if I can't do that, then I'm intimidated, something's wrong. Now it's okay if it's for a half-hour speech, and I'll bite my tongue and hope that next time I'll talk is on Shabbos, nobody will be writing, that's fine. But it's important to understand that in a long-term relationship like marriage, in a long-term relationship we're trying to actually build a connection, understand the other person, be close to the other person, care about the other person, have the other person care about you. There has to be a certain amount of openness which comes from healthy communication. You can't communicate in a healthy way if you're going to be controlled and suffocated and be afraid to say something. Now, of course, if the thing that you're going to say is about the other person, so there you go, you're hurting someone, so that would be incorrect. But to not be able to say something about yourself, that's wrong. And in almost every relationship, people sometimes wonder, how do I say something? I want to say this, but I can't. Why can't you? Because if I tell her that she's doing something wrong, she's not going to handle it. Why would you tell her she's doing something wrong? Why are you here to tell her what she's doing? Why are you explaining to him what he doesn't understand? Why don't you talk about yourself? Talking about yourself is part of mine. We spoke about boundaries. As mine is yours and ours. What's mine is explaining myself, doing myself, controlling myself, and expressing myself. And if you could do that in a healthy way, where you're not hurting anyone, that's called a healthy relationship. If you're able to do that in a way that the other person understands that it's only me, and even if somebody tells you, but how could you say that? And with that, they're trying to suffocate you. And with that, they're trying to choke you and make sure it doesn't happen again because they don't like when you say what you want, because it may make them feel guilty that they're not doing something the way you want. That's fine. You can still say it again, don't worry. You could. And if you don't say it again, then there you go, you're being controlled again. So it's very important to understand, and this is everywhere. This is with parents and children, in healthy relationships. This is in marriage, and this is with your next door neighbor. This is with your next door neighbor. Right? If it comes to the garbage, who's taking up the garbage? Right? And you do it because you're afraid of your neighbor, or you're afraid to tell him that it was his kids that threw the garbage on the lawn, and therefore you're going to go pick it up. You're being controlled. Chances are that person will take advantage of you. So it's not about protecting yourself, which is what I started with. It's about protecting your relationship. If you want to be relating to someone in a healthy and a happy way, in a long-term way, you're going to have to learn what belongs to who. It's not possible for people to be in a long-term, close relationship and both be happy if this is not respected. And most often, even when it looks like one person is happy, but the other one is not, it's not really that way. One person may be getting more control of the situation, one person may be having things go his or her way, it doesn't mean they're happy. It's not happy. Nobody's happy with that. Nobody feels good when they're controlling everything going on around them and people are dancing around them on tiptoes. It doesn't feel good. You don't feel like you're married to anyone. As a matter of fact, so often, the one who's actually violating the other person's boundary is the one that's going to pull that person for help later. Because something's wrong, it's lopsided, it's not healthy. The Pusik says, I'm going to end with this, again it's late, I don't want to keep it on too long. The Pusik says, Hasam Gevilach Shular. In order for there to be Shular, there has to be Gevilach. In order for you to want to get along with someone, there has to be a certain mutual respect of boundaries. And even before the other person understands it, you could understand it on your own. You could be protecting your boundaries. You could be protecting someone else's boundaries. You could do it in so many different ways. And even parents with children, I'm talking about little children, when everything's fine, there's no reason for a parent to be controlling a child. Right? We just heard about that. Micromanaging. Why are you doing that? It's his. But I don't like when he does that. And therefore, so you don't like it. You're not relating healthy. You want your kid to love you. You want your kid to trust you. You want your kid to understand you. Respect what's his. And make sure you respect what's yours. And if he can walk into your bedroom and wake you up whenever he wants, and you think it's being very nice to just go along and say it's fine, then you're losing your boundary. And all of a sudden you're going to start feeling resentful. And maybe one day you'll just slam your shut. It has to be healthy. In order to be Shulam, it has to be something to be like. Well, the Rabbi should help, we should understand it and implement it in a happy and healthy way.